Hello and welcome to the 2024 Treasures of the Lower Zambezi Trip Report. And I'm here today to share some incredible updates with you guys that we experienced over the past 8 nights here while out on safari and having an absolutely amazing time. What better place to do it than right here on the banks of the Zambezi River? So I would encourage you to sit back, relax, grab yourself a cup of coffee, and I really hope that you enjoy these updates. Hi there everyone, so my name is Michael Appalsamy, and like I said, I am here to share some amazing updates with you guys that we've experienced over the past few days right here in the Lower Zambezi National Park of Zambia. And my word guys, it's been absolutely incredible. It's my first time to Zambia, as well as my two guests who are traveling with me at the moment. It's their first time traveling here specifically for safari. And I can tell you that it is absolutely blowing all of our minds spending some time out here in these beautiful forests. And today, how I'm going to do this, firstly, what a scene. What a scene. And I thought, as opposed to usually doing these at the Wild Eye studio, I thought I'd just jump out here and give you an idea of what it's like to be out here on this river. It is absolutely magnificent. In terms of hippos, the crocodiles, all of the wildlife. I can see off in the distance there's some beautiful impala, some waterbuck. The wildlife here, it's just so rich, densely populated with incredible animals. And I'm certainly going to jump into some of those updates with you guys today. I do have my laptop sitting right here with me. It's a bit of a makeshift studio out here today, but nevertheless, I'm just going to have a look down every now and then. That's just how action-packed it has been, that I need a bit of a reminder of everything that we've seen. So getting right into it, we have spent 4 nights. In fact, firstly, we've done this itinerary with Classic Zambia, and they've got 2 camps down here in the Lower Zambezi National Park, that being Kutali camp as well as Chula Island camp. 2 very, very unique and beautiful camps on their own, and it's been absolutely amazing to experience the difference and the uniqueness of those camps. So starting off, we flew in from Lusaka, a very short half-an-hour flight here into the park, where we were collected and taken through to Kutali camp, where we ended up staying first. A very unique and lovely camp situated right on the banks of the Zambezi. And what I loved so much about this camp is it was found in the middle of a huge winter thorn forest, and all of these beautiful tall trees. While we were there, it was absolutely amazing. And what's awesome about those trees is the bird life. Driving through there, waking up in the morning, being on the banks. I woke up a few nights and it was quite cool. We had full moon. It was very, very full moon while we were out here, which meant lots of light at night. And that was awesome because we had a lot of game coming out, the hippos coming out of the water into the campsites. Absolutely incredible. So we really enjoyed our time while we were there. And jumping into the wildlife, just to give you guys some highlights of everything that we had seen. Starting off on our first day, first afternoon out, get the wild dogs. Absolutely incredible. Firstly, we were just blown away by driving through, all of these forests. That afternoon light coming through here. For those of you who might have traveled to Mana Pools, the likes of, which is literally just across the river, very similar in that sense. And that's something that I've experienced for the first time on this trip, and it is magnificent, guys. I cannot tell you enough that those forests on their own, I could sit there and photograph them all day. So we drove out the first afternoon, and like I say, just driving around the forest, getting a feel for the place. We came across a beautiful lioness very briefly, which was really cool to see, and all of a sudden we got the call that the dogs are out. Now, a little bit of history and a background rather about these wild dogs. There's a pack of 19 wild dogs here, pretty much right in between, a little bit closer to Chula camp, but pretty much right in between Kutali and Chula. And therefore we got to experience them a few times while we were here. But it's a pack of 19 dogs. They are busy denning at the moment, and with that in mind, you can imagine these dogs are having to hunt pretty much twice a day, therefore increasing your chances to see them. And we managed to get 6 of the dogs that first afternoon, beautifully, like I say, with the backdrop of these winter thorn trees, guys, unreal stuff. So that was really a great start, really exciting way to get into the trip. We didn't really have much time to settle in, but rather got stuck straight into it. So secondly, after that, we managed to, the next morning, headed out on our first full day of safari and really got to enjoy once again what the forest had to offer. We came across a beautiful pride of lions that consisted of, there were 2 males, 2 5-month-old cubs and 2 lionesses, and they had actually made a buffalo kill not too far from camp, and that was really awesome because we got to spend a couple of days with those lions, and just watching the interaction between the cubs, the males and the females. In fact, one of the females had recently just been in estrus, so you could sense there was a lot of tension between the males, and that was really interesting to watch, all of those behaviors, those different dynamics, which we thoroughly enjoyed and enjoyed photographing at the same time. Once again, that afternoon, the elephants in this area and in and amongst these winter thorns made for some beautiful photography. So day 1 was a little bit quiet, once again finding our feet, getting a feel for things, and I can tell you then after that things really began to pick up. We decided the next morning that we were going to head off to those lions that were on that buffalo kill. The previous day when we had first found them, it was quite a quiet, in terms, when I say quite quiet, they hadn't fed much on the carcass just yet. So we decided, let's get there, let's see if there's any behavior, any interactions that we can photograph and work on. And my word, just looking at these photographs right here, it was amazing. We got their first light. One of the lionesses was busy feeding, as well as the cubs. They were in and around her, and that was so beautiful because we were the only vehicle there for at least half an hour, and just got to experience, you know, having these cubs, these lions very close to us and photographing them was really amazing. As the morning kind of progressed, we, you know, and the males began to get a little bit active again, just seeing and witnessing those interactions between the males specifically was very interesting, because there was the female that I just mentioned who was previously in estrus. There was still a lot of, if I can call, territory hold over that female. So whenever they got to the carcass and she was close by, the other male was getting in between, and really trying to create a bit of dominance over that area. So that was great to watch. Having those cubs in and around us was also very special. It was kind of in a dense foliaged forest, which allowed for some beautiful dapple light falling through there, and once again it was just absolutely stunning. So a great morning out on safari. Moving off to our afternoon, we got to focus a little bit once again on some elephants out here. For those of you who have experienced it before, in Mana Pool specifically, you very famous for the likes of Boswell, some of those big elephant bulls climbing up on their back feet, reaching up, trying to grab some of the pods from the winter thorn trees. Now, what I can say about these Zambian elephants is they are not too far off from doing the same thing. On multiple occasions, quite a few days, we've been able to experience these guys literally reaching. You can see they about half a stretch away from lifting those front feet off of the ground, and that's been really interesting to see because, you know, that's quite unique behavior, something that you don't necessarily see quite that often in other places other than the likes of Zimbabwe, and it seems Zambia too. So really great afternoon focusing in on that. And what was exciting, a little bit later on, we got an absolutely incredible call to a leopard, a female leopard that was not too far away from us. So we made our way off to her. And for those of you who have seen Michael Loebscher and Johan van Sail's trip report from last year, 2023, you would have seen they had some incredible leopard behavior between multi-generational leopards. 3 generations of leopards spending time together, an older female, her previous cub, as well as one of her young cubs. And the call that we got was to one of her younger cubs, whose name is Pinky. Very cool name, unique name for the leopard. but my word, did she put on a show for us. We had such an incredible afternoon. Before we knew it, we had spent about 2 hours with her. As the light was coming down, she was kind of in a hunting mood. You could see she was looking around, very observant of everything going around with all the antelope, impala, those types of things. And it was really special to experience that. So we really enjoyed that and managed to get some stunning photographs. So that was day 2 of our trip, which was, once again, just mind-blowing. I cannot tell you guys enough how special this place is in terms of the forest, the light. It's something I can't really explain. I mean, I've said it a few times on this trip that Zambia is officially at the top of my safari list. I love this place. Just thinking about the guides that we've had since we've been out here, it's been amazing. They are so knowledgeable of their work. Their understanding of the bush is incredible, far beyond levels that I've experienced before. So they just made the experience so worth it while we were out here. So the following morning, still at Kutali camp, we decided to move away from the plains a little bit. We were waiting out for those wild dogs, hoping that they would come out, but didn't really get anything. So we moved on a little bit from there. On this particular day, came across a beautiful herd of buffalo, and once again, just talking about this light that comes up, it's stunning. So managed to photograph some great buffaloes, and once again came across another leopard. This is one thing I can certainly mention out here with confidence, is the leopard sightings that we've had out here have been some of the most quality leopard sightings I've ever experienced. I don't know if that just comes down to how relaxed they are with the vehicles, or the density of them, because I think in our time here we've seen about 4 or 5 leopards. Even if some of them were briefly, we did see a couple, but the ones that we spent time with, it was glorious. We were the only vehicle there at times. If that, there were maybe 2 or 3 vehicles. Don't necessarily get flies in the Wild Eye studio, but if anything, there were maybe 2 or 3 other vehicles while we were out there. So this was quite great, because throughout this morning we came across a beautiful male leopard, very relaxed. He had actually been spotted out by a troop of baboons and impala, and these baboons would just not let him move. So he was actually very much relaxed up in a tree, not too bothered by them. And he made for some stunning photography though. One moment in particular, he stood in this beautiful V of a tree, and we had him perfectly in between that. He was looking up at the sky as if he was posing for us. So I can really say that was such a special morning, such a great time on safari. And moving on from there, we kind of made our way back to camp, and very excitedly that afternoon we decided to go off. We found another leopard. Instead of Pinky, this time around we found her mother, which is the Kafue female. We spent a little bit of time with her before, once again, she was chased off by some baboons into some thicker stuff. So once again, a great afternoon. She was contact calling quite a little bit. We believe she might have been calling for some of her offspring. But nevertheless, unfortunately, we lost sight of her once those baboons did come. So once we were done with her, we decided, should we go and have a look for that male leopard we'd seen in the morning, or should we go to the dogs? And we waited up, and we decided to make our way to the area where the wild dogs are, in hopes that they would come out that afternoon to hunt. My word, guys, it paid off perfectly. They weren't necessarily out to hunt, but we came across the entire pack of dogs. Well, in fact, not the entire pack. It seems to be the behavior is there's been 13 dogs coming out at a time, or 6 dogs coming out at a time, bearing in mind that a couple of the dogs would stay at the den side with the pups. But this afternoon we happened to have 13 of them out in the plains, busy playing around with. It wasn't very photographic, just because that light had gone down a touch, but it was beautiful nonetheless to just watch the interactions between all of these dogs, listening to the sounds, the calls when they get excited. It was absolutely stunning. So we really enjoyed our night there, spending time with those dogs, and having them for the second time already on the trip was extremely special. So that was that. We then, the following day was the day that we made our way to Chula camp. Now if I just scroll down and have a look here quickly, how we ended up doing that. Chula camp, what a beautiful camp. It's literally an island which is separated by a couple of channels branching off from the Zambezi River itself, and it's an island that's about 11 kilometers at the longest side to 6 kilometers at the widest, and we are the only camp situated on this island, and it is absolute magic, absolute magic. So, and I mean, even, you know, some of the experiences that comes with this camp is just to get onto the island, we have to jump onto canoes that brings us across. You know, when we go on a game drive in the afternoon, we jump back on the canoes, get to the mainland. Such an incredible experience. So that was simply awesome. So our first morning, that morning after our game drive, made our way to Chula Island, got to the camp. Like I said, between Kutali and Chula, such unique camps in their own way. I really personally enjoyed Chula camp quite a lot more. The reason being is, you know, there's different type of trees specifically here on the island called the mahogany tree, and this just creates a lot of shade in this area. It creates a lot of privacy in this area, and looking out of my tent, all I can see is the Zambezi River and all of this beauty. So it's been absolutely incredible in that way. So our first afternoon out, we actually decided to go on a canoe safari as opposed to a normal drive. That's the beauty about when you are here in the Zambezi National Park, and specifically traveling with Classic Zambia. You have a lot of options to do some different activities, whether it is going out on game drive, whether it's going on a canoe, whether it's going for walking safaris. You can even go tiger fishing if you'd like, boat cruises. I mean, the possibilities and options are endless, and they're so accommodating with that in order to make it enjoyable for you. So our first afternoon went out on a canoe safari, and that was one of the most special experiences I've certainly experienced in my life, and my guest absolutely loved it as well. So peaceful, just cruising down the river. It was about a 2-hour cruise where, I mean, it's unexplainable how special that is. So definitely, for those of you who are coming on this trip in the future, you're going to have to do that, because that is a trip of a lifetime, jumping on those canoes. So it was awesome. We had some hippos that afternoon, we had some elephants close by to the banks, crocodiles jumping right next to us. But it's awesome, you know, these guys are so aware and so talented at what they do that there was never a moment I felt unsafe, because we would come around a corner and they would say to us, okay guys, there's going to be 6 hippos around this corner, and true as Bob, you get around, there's the 6 hippos. You then go around another corner, he says, okay, there's one single bull here. Sometimes he takes time to move out of the way, so we're just going to give him space. And that would all fall into place perfectly. And that's the thing, that they were just so aware, they were so knowledgeable of the animals in the area, that you truly felt safe while you were on this. So that was amazing, absolutely amazing. And we then had our first night here at Chula. Moving on, the following morning, we banked some time to specifically focus on wild dogs, and it paid off. It paid off. We got a call to get to this wild dog, and the group of 6 had come out to hunt once again, and we got to one of the dogs who had just taken down an impala. So we got to watch him feed, which was fascinating on its own, and eventually followed that dog just before it had made its way off to the den site. They have closed off the den site, which I think is great, just to give those animals space and time to develop well. But it was cool, because we decided on this specific day that we were going to do a full day out on safari. And just as the name of the trip is Treasures of the Lower Zambezi, we went to discover one of the treasures of this place. And the reason being is we decided to go full day out. It took us about a 2-hour drive to get to a magnificent baobab tree out here in this park, which they estimate to be 500 years old. And I cannot tell you, the minute we drove up to this tree, we were all in absolute awe. When you just look at the size comparison of this tree, it's hard to imagine it. And we thoroughly enjoyed our time here, spending most of the day out here. And it was special. We had lunch while we were out there at the tree, taking awesome photographs, taking some awesome videos. It was great. So once we were done with that, we made our way back towards camp and decided to hang around the plains again in hopes that the dogs would come out. True as Bob, we got the dogs again. 4 times in total, guys. It's been awesome. And this afternoon in particular, that you could see that they were in a hunting mood. 13 of the dogs out again, and focusing in on them, they were in full hunting mode. There was a herd of zebra out in the middle of the plains, which they shifted their focus to, and just to watch the interactions unfold. I believe that it's not common for the dogs to go for zebra out here in the Zambezi National Park. However, you could see for some reason the dogs were interested this afternoon. So just to watch those interactions, to watch it all unfold, was absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, fortunately, depends who you're rooting for, the dogs didn't end up taking down a zebra. However, like I say, just to watch them trying, to watch the zebras coming together, you know, getting their backs to one another and defending the younger zebra in particular from the dogs was fascinating behavior. And that's something that's been really interesting for all of us here. Just the, you know, the behavior, focusing in on that, regardless of how beautiful this place is photographically. That's what works really nicely between the balance of Kutali versus Chula camp. Kutali is a lot more game drive focused, and usually what we suggest is once you get to Chula, it slows down a little bit. You definitely have a different sense while you are out here in terms of, you know, being on the river a lot more, and you get to experience some special stuff in that way. And then moving on to our next day, we had a beautiful day, mainly focused on spending time in the forest, photographing animals, elephants, baboons, impala, waterbuck, all of those things. You know, it was a quiet day, so to say, in terms of cats, those types of things, but it was really interesting to really just focus on and capture this environment, most importantly, and we really enjoyed that. And finally, on our last day, which is today, as I'm recording this, we had a great morning out, where we came across a lioness with the 2 cubs, those lions that we had found on the first day, lioness and her 2 cubs, and just watching these guys interact and playing around was absolutely incredible. We spent most of the morning with them and just enjoyed that so much. Photographically, it was beautiful. They were in and amongst this stunning grass. The cubs were all over the place, full of energy, and once again, like I say, just so beautiful all in all. So we've got one more drive. I might have to, you never know how the afternoon goes, but if there is a small little snippet on this, it's because the drive went incredibly well. Surprise everyone. So just like I mentioned in my video, I had a feeling I was going to have to do this, but I have to jump in here and give you guys an extra little update from how our trip finished off in the Lower Zambezi. And my goodness, how's this for a last morning? So we went out on drive on our last morning for the trip, and the previous morning we were aware of the fact that the pack of wild dogs had caught an adult waterbuck, and that evening, our final night, it was slightly overcast, therefore there wasn't as much moonlight. So all of these factors kind of led to the point that the wild dogs hadn't come out on our last evening. And this kind of got our hopes up for the following morning that we would be in the money to potentially see the dogs before heading off. And my goodness, guys, it was absolutely as good as it could get. We got out onto Jackie Plains on our final morning in hopes of seeing the dogs, and we got there, massive herd of buffalo. And immediately this kind of triggered it for us, and we knew that the dogs were very opportunistic when it came to hunting buffaloes due to the size of the pack, and had a scan around, managed to pick up on the dogs, and we could see they were in full hunting mode. And within a few minutes, guys, it absolutely turned chaotic. And the dogs chased after the buffalo herd, isolating 2 calves in particular and chasing the rest of the herd off. Now, I can say that this was probably one of the toughest sightings I've ever experienced and seen myself, including that for my 2 guests. It was a very emotional sighting. And the reason being for that is the dogs were unable to, kill the buffalo like they normally would for the likes of impala. For those of you who have seen wild dogs hunting before, it's often over in seconds, let alone minutes. Hunting impala, those likes. However, they couldn't break through the hide of these young buffalo. And for that reason, they were unable to kill them. And this kind of, this back and forth between these 2 buffalo calves went on for about 20 minutes. And it was intense. It was right next to the vehicles. The bellowing of the buffalo was, it was a cry out and a half. However, all of this commotion ended up attracting 2 male lions that were in the area, who came in, absolutely crashed the party of the wild dogs. What was a good thing, they came in, immediately killed both of those buffalo calves. But then what was interesting for us to photograph and experience was the interaction between these 2 lions. One lion in particular who was chasing the dogs around, the wild dogs and their alarm calls going off. It was unbelievable, what's the word I'm looking for? Unbelievable behavior that we got to experience. So such a special way to finish off our morning. And over and above this, it didn't end here because the dogs hadn't had an opportunity to feed on these young buffalo. We knew that they were still hungry. We knew that they would potentially still be on the lookout for hunting before heading back to the den. And true as Bob, we followed them off a little bit shortly after they left the scene of the lions feeding on the buffalo. And the pack, this morning in particular, this was the most dogs we had seen while we were there together. I think there were about 15 or 16 of the dogs that had come out this morning. And the pack split up into 2 groups. One of them went down into the valley, and about 6 or 7 of the dogs stayed up on the plains where we were. Oh my goodness, guys. And the adrenaline chasing after these dogs while they were full sprint on the hunt. Within 5 minutes, they probably caught about 2 or 3 impala. And like I say, within seconds, it was skin and bones. Like I say, I had a feeling I was going to have to jump in here and give you guys a final update. But just to add this in, you can see from the footage that I've just shared with you how intense, how incredible this was. And certainly, I think, a once-in-a-lifetime experience that we got to witness. And the absolutely perfect way to finish off our trip in the Lower Zambezi. So with that being said, from the Wild Eye Studio, thank you, and let's get back to my video from the banks of the Zambezi. But like I said, we'll be out tomorrow morning by 11:30 or so. So you can really get an understanding just from all of the days that I have shared with you how incredible this place is. And I cannot emphasize the point enough that for me personally and for my 2 guests as well, this has been a trip of a lifetime. Just in terms of how beautiful it is, in terms of the animal interactions that we've experienced, in terms of the density of game that we've experienced. It really is one that I've certainly enjoyed. I've loved hosting it, and I've absolutely enjoyed sharing some of these updates with you. It's a great excuse just to sit here on the river. So thank you so much for all of your guys' time. If you happen to have any questions about this specific tour and you want to find out a little bit more about it, feel free to get in touch with me or any of the other guides, and we would happily share some more information with you. It's been special, and I certainly look forward to coming back to this place one day, hopefully with some of you. So we'll see how it goes. But nevertheless, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed that cup of coffee, and until the next time, keep well, be safe, and I'll chat to you all soon. Cheers everyone.